I'm glad you're driving.
Yep, I'm telling you, I've been driving these roads since I was 14, and you can still get your driver's license in South Dakota when you're 14 due to agriculture, because there's so all the ranches, mostly ranching on the western side of the state, mostly farming on the other side of the state, although, yep, there's a little bit of both everywhere. Yep, I worked on a ranch for about 6 years over in Wyoming, just across the border there, by south of, about 14 miles southwest of Sundance, Wyoming. Yeah, like a gentleman named Harry Longabaugh. He worked in Sundance back in the late 1800s, and he stole his boss's horse. Well, what happened to you if you stole a horse back then?
They shot you.
Hung you. Yes, they hung you. They shot you with it. I mean, a man was basically as good as dead if he did that. And the person that got his horse stolen too, you're out there in the middle of nowhere and you lose your horse, you're as good as dead as well. Right. And so anyway, so his boss actually forgave him, but the city of Sundance put him in the Sundance jail for 18 months. And when he came out of the Sundance jail in Sundance, Wyoming, he was forever known as the Sundance Kid. Some of you have heard of the Sundance Kid, right? Yep. You might have seen the movie with, was it Paul Newman and Robert Redford, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Yeah, this is way before he hooked up with Butch Cassidy, but...
Oh, I didn't know that's how he met up with him. Okay.
Well, that was way before he met up with Butch Cassidy. Yep, that's how he got the name.
He started.
Yep, that's how he got his name, the Sundance Kid. Yeah, so if you're ever heading towards, like Devil's Tower National Monument, you can stop in Sundance. Also on the way, there's something called the Vore Buffalo Jump Site. Anybody know what a buffalo jump is?
No.
That's where the Native Americans used to chase the buffalo, also known as, yes, over the cliffs. He got it. Okay. Because before they acquired their horses, before they acquired their guns, I mean, it must have been really hard to get food, and so without guns or horses, and then eventually, after, once they did acquire their guns and horses, it was much easier. But before that, they had to chase the bison over these huge cliffs called buffalo jumps, and then they had to finish them off with their bows and arrows after they went off the cliff. And they have found the remains of over 50,000 buffalo. I call them, here, if people call them bison or buffalo, they're referring to the same thing. I'll be explaining that in a little more detail later. But like I said, if you hear somebody here say buffalo or bison, it means the same thing. Not to a wildlife biologist, though. But we'll tell you how the buffalo got the wrong name here real soon. But this is the famous Iron Mountain Road that goes up and over the top of Iron Mountain. It's famous for its 314 curves. It's got 3 spiral wooden bridges that go around and around. It's got 2 splits in the scenic byway highway where the roads or the lanes actually split apart. It's got 3 tunnels on the mountainside. And like I said, up and over the top of Iron Mountain, we're going to be just as high as Mount Rushmore here pretty soon. Top of Mount Rushmore is 5,725 feet in elevation. The Black Hills National Forest is 1.2 million acres. The Black Hills National Forest is 125 miles long by over 70 miles wide. There is so much to do here. Hundreds of tourist attractions. And the Black Hills National Forest also extends into Wyoming over by Devil's Tower National Monument, and the Native Americans call it Matotipila, or also known as Bear Lodge. And Yellowstone was our nation's first national park, created in 1872, but Devil's Tower was our first national monument, created in 1906 by Theodore Roosevelt.
No aliens there, huh?
What's that?
No aliens there.
No, but hey, she said no aliens there because in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that's where they landed the spaceship.
Right.
Yep, so if you see that movie, you might remember Devil's Tower from that movie. Okay, here's the first spiral wooden bridge called a Pigtail Bridge. Yeah, you go underneath it and you go over the top of it. Now, these are some of the only ones. I've been told they are the only ones left in America. All the other ones were torn down and never rebuilt because of too much maintenance. Now everything's built with iron and steel and everything else. But these are wooden bridges, and do you see how they're curved? The only curved wooden bridges left in America. Yep, so look at how steep the hillsides are. So this was a necessity to lift the road up in a circular fashion. And a man named C.C. Gideon came up with the spiral wooden design to lift the road up without adding miles to the road. Peter Norbeck, our former governor and United States Senator from South Dakota, he's considered the father of Custer State Park. And him and his good buddy, C.C. Gideon, they mapped out all these roads on foot and on horseback over 100 miles worth, up and over the top of Iron Mountain, all through the Needles Mountain Range, all around the Wildlife Loop area, and so much more. Pretty incredible. This road was completed in 1933 with the help of the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps. That was part of FDR's New Deal plan that put over 3 million men to work all across America, and they built roads and bridges, and they built a lot of our historic fire lookout towers, and they did so much. They made $1 a day, $30 a month, but they sent $25 home to their sometimes starving families. So we can thank the CCC a lot, and then later also the WPA, Workers' Progress Administration. This Pigtail Bridge is my favorite one. Now, if you look through the trees here, can you guys see where the bridge is through the trees?
Yeah.
That's where we end up. So we just keep going around and around. We got all the moss over there facing north. The moss always faces north, and then our ponderosa pine trees get really orange on the south facing side. Look at all the trees over there. Look how orange the bark is. Do you guys see how the sun lightens the bark and makes it orange? So the orange bark faces south. The moss faces north.
You'll have a test later.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, could be a test later.
We see enough moss at our house.
Yeah, right.
We got a lot.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so if you look at these trees, see how orange they are on the south-facing side?
Yeah.
Yep, you can really tell. Black on one side and orange on the other. Yeah, and a lot of our trees sadly have the mountain pine beetle disease. The mountain pine beetle burrows into the tree. It produces a blue fungus. That blue fungus slowly kills the tree. It cuts off the water supply. It cuts off the nutrients, and then all the pine needles eventually fall off, and then the tree eventually dies. So we've got, you know, millions of dead trees here in the Black Hills, and then a gust of wind comes up and just knocks them all down. You guys have probably seen a lot of downed trees due to the mountain pine beetle or forest fires or a combination of the two.
This tunnel here, you can see Mount Rushmore
right
behind.
Yes, and yep, and so what I want you guys to do is always remember that you honk your horn before you go in because of this right here. All right, and we're gonna surprise them with that too, so we're gonna show them this, but you could be a tour guide. All right, so we're gonna go in here, and we normally honk, but I don't want to scare the bejeebies out of these people here. All right, so we won't honk, but normally you honk before you get into the tunnel, and then you honk when you're in the tunnel, because this is a one-lane tunnel. So what happens is people get in here, and you're facing another vehicle, and then somebody's got to go backwards. But the problem is you've got 4 or 5 vehicles behind you. how do you get 4 or 5 vehicles to go backwards? It's not easy. It's happened to me a lot. So always honk before you go into the tunnel, and then honk when you're in the tunnel, and the locals for sure will know to sound their horn and honk back at you. Yep, there's the father of Mount Rushmore, Doane Robinson, the man who came up with the idea. There is a lot of poison ivy over there, so please, stay on the road here so you don't get poisoned. Get out.
I'll show you guys a little surprise about this tunnel here, everyone.
Yep. Okay, here we go. One. Oh, you've already seen it. All right. Pretty cool. Eric's been on the tour before. Okay, really? Come on up. Ready? Surprise! Look through the tunnel.
Mount Rushmore, everyone.
There's Mount Rushmore right there. Perfectly.
Oh.
Yeah, there. Jaw dropper. She went, wow. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, you want to get a picture of the vehicle inside the tunnel, you guys. It's good for scale. And hey, if your camera doesn't work, we'll give you one of these. People say their camera doesn't work a lot. Here you go, Eric. Here you go, Lawrence. Okay, here, there's one of those right there. Here you go. Everybody got one here at least? Okay. But isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So this is the #1 spot for picture taking on Iron Mountain Road, but most people don't even know about it. Oh, look behind you. Oh, look at this. Oh, cute. Look behind you. Oh, they said okay. Anyway, come on up and look.
Oh, I see.
Mount Rushmore, perfectly framed.
Mount Rushmore.
Yep, and you want to get a picture of the vehicle in there for scale. So these people have not a clue what we're looking at here. I'll tell them. I'll tell them. They could probably pull over right over there.
So did they build this tunnel specifically?
Yes. Oh, look behind you. Oh, I was going to tell him. You might want to pull over. Okay. Yeah, they specifically, perfectly framed all 3 tunnels to frame Mount Rushmore. All 3? Yep, all 3 of them. You got it.
That's amazing.
All right. Okay, so when you're ready, we'll get going again. Yep, and then that way you can circle some of this stuff, and I've got another map to give you as well. The big tear-off Black Hills National Forest map. Also on the back of that, you've got the Needles Highway. You've got and then also you have Badlands National Park. You've got Devil's Tower National Monument, and all that as well. Okay, here we go again. Gonna be going up and over the top of Iron Mountain. Okay, coming up is where the road splits apart. And there's 2 splits on Iron Mountain Road. This is the first one. One lady, what was it, last week, she didn't notice the road split apart, and she looked up and she was like, your roads are narrow. Not quite this narrow, but although the Needles Highway does get pretty narrow, it gets so narrow we have to pull in our side mirror. Yeah, obviously the driver's side, because a lot of those big dually pickup trucks, their side mirrors hang way out. We've had a couple other tour guides lose their mirrors, so I haven't lost one yet, knock on wood. I'm very careful. Yeah, our aspen trees are unusually white. A lot of people, they think they're birch, although we do have a lot of birch in the forest here as well. The birch usually grows in clumps or clusters. And then, yep, so we got a little bit of everything here.
After I remember back in 2021, what your trivia question?
Mm-hmm.
What's the largest plant in the world?
Yes, okay, so, yes, and I was going to tell him that. That's awesome. Thanks for reminding me, Eric. And, okay, so does anybody know what the largest living organism in the world is?
I'll give you a hint.
He knows.
It's not Dakota.
Yep, it's not the sequoias. It's not the redwoods.
That's what I would normally think.
Yep. It's the aspen tree.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's a birch right there because of the leaves and the bark is peeling. When the bark is peeling like that one right there, that means it's a birch tree. Yeah, the aspen leaves are a little rounder, more heart-shaped, more like a silver dollar almost, and the bark is white and not peeling. And so the aspen tree, the root system, is all interconnected. That's why it's considered the world's largest living organism. Did anyone ride the 1880 train?
Yeah.
Did they tell you about that?
Yes.
Yes, yep, they
did that
did.
yesterday.
Uh-huh. Yep. So a lot of times the people that are giving the tours on the 1880 train will even tell you about that. And there's Mount Rushmore again, straight ahead, perfectly framed in the tunnel. They even keep the trees trimmed down for us. How about that? Yep. Well, I would honk, but they're gonna think I'm honking at them. But yep, I'm watching here. Okay. All right. See, that's usually the only one people get to see because they're heading that way. The other two tunnels, Mount Rushmore is perfectly framed in the tunnels behind you when you're heading the direction we're heading. Yeah, I mentioned that the Black Hills National Forest is 1.2 million acres. And if you don't know how big an acre is, it's the size of a football field. Just take away the end zones. So think about just the football field. And so if somebody back home says, hey, I got 3 acres for sale, just think about 3 football fields. It's almost the exact same size. Yep, so 3 football fields is the same size as 3 acres. So that means the Black Hills National Forest is larger than 1 million football fields. Because it's 1.2 million acres is the Black Hills National Forest. There's so much to do here, as you probably found out. But we cover most of the central and the southern Black Hills. We go more places than any other tour company. Okay, and right over here is a wonderful example of rose quartz. Okay, now if you were to take that top layer off, that would be as bubblegum pink as you can imagine. Yeah, and some of the best rock shops are in Hill City, Keystone, and Custer. And so, yeah, especially O's quartz. And I've noticed all the prairie roses are coming out as well.
This road must be fun.
You need a permit to pass the. You need a permit to pass for go.
No, you don't. Yeah, but you do need, if you want to get your own gold mining claim. He was wondering if you need a permit to go gold mining. Well, if you're going to get a gold mining claim, then you have to do that. You have to definitely, to get a claim, you have to file it, and then you go to the BLM office, the Bureau of Land Management office in Belle Fourche. But if you want to just go do it for fun, if you're on the Black Hills National Forest, you can pretty much keep anything you want. If you're harvesting things like gold or like say, yeah, it depends on where you're at though. If you're in the Black Hills National Forest, it's okay. But if you're in a national park or monument or memorial, then you're not allowed to take anything. In fact, the rangers will give you a big ticket if they catch you even putting a rock in your pocket. And you know, those rocks are called leverrites. Leverrite there, get it? Leverrite? Leverrite there. Anybody need to use the bathroom over there?
No.
You guys are good?
I'm good right now.
Okay. Well, you know, I try to never pass up an outhouse without offering it, so. We pride ourselves on giving lots and lots of bathroom breaks. And you know, the outhouses are actually very clean as well. People are very surprised how clean they are. Yep, here pretty soon there's going to be an amazing overlook, so definitely get your cameras ready for that.
Here, hold that one.
And it's going to be out of the right-hand side coming up. And some of you have seen all the piles of wood in the forest. See it? There's one right there. There's thousands of them.
Yes.
Those are called slash piles. S-L-A-S-H. Now, the Black Hills National Forest is one of the most actively managed forests in the United States, where it comes to cleaning up their forests, doing all the controlled and the prescribed burns, eliminating the mountain pine beetle disease epidemic. and so much more. And so there's a lot of places in America and up in Canada that do not clean up their forests. That's why they have such terrible fires. And I'll explain in a little more detail here. If you look to the left, there's a great example of iron, the rusty colored mineral. And if you look to the right, look at that view way out there. We're way up here. We're over a mile high. A mile high is 5,280 feet, and pretty soon we'll be at around 5,400 feet.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
What time of year do they burn the?
In the wintertime.
In the winter.
Yep, you always got to have a few inches of snow on the ground. Okay, and okay, so what they do is people come in, they could be federal workers, they could be state workers, they could be independent contractors, it just depends on what land they're on, and then they clean up as much dead wood off of the forest floor as humanly possible, and then they have to let the wood dry out. You got to let it season or dry out for at least one season. And then the firefighters come in, and they burn all those piles of wood. That's fire prevention 101. Yep, we're going to stop right here. And there is the Peter Norbeck Monument to the right. He's the reason we have Mount Rushmore. He's the reason why we have all the buffalo. He's the reason why we have the Custer State Park. Everybody look at Mount Rushmore. Off to the left. Most people miss this as well because they're all looking at the monument. So, yep. Right there. I'm pointing, so hopefully they'll get to see it too. Oh, I think they missed it. Okay. Yep, there's Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore through the trees. Oh, tried to help them out. Okay, but yep, Peter Norbeck. He's one of the 4 men credited with saving the North American bison, aka buffalo, from extinction. Isn't that awesome? From extinction.
Right.
Yeah, because did you guys know it went from 60 million buffalo or bison all the way down to less than 1,000, some say as few as 400 in less than 20 years. And does anyone know why the buffalo were purposely killed? Well, they tried to make them extinct, but does anybody know the real reason why they tried to kill all the buffalo?
To feed the Indians? Is that it?
Yeah, to starve and to kill the Indians. Yep, it was basically to kill the Indians because of the likes of Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull and Chief Red Cloud. And have any of you heard of the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Custer's Last Stand?
Yeah.
After that, I know the sun's coming out over there. That's awesome. And the Battle of the Little Bighorn in Montana, it used to be known as Custer's Last Stand. It's the worst military defeat in United States history by the hands of the Native Americans, but it's also the greatest victory ever in North America for the Native Americans. And so the greatest victory for the Native Americans or American Indians, but also the worst military defeat ever. Custer and the famed 7th Cavalry, they were all wiped out June 25th, 1876. And then after that happened, they couldn't control Crazy Horse. He was the main strategist. He was probably the most revered and feared war leader of all time for the Northern Plains tribes. And so anyway, they thought, well, if we can't beat them in battles, we're going to have to starve them out. We're going to have to freeze them out. So thousands upon thousands of Native Americans either froze to death or starved to death because the buffalo were gone. And so, yeah, it'd be like another country coming over here and taking away all of our clothing stores, and all of our food, and all of our grocery stores. That wouldn't be good, but that's exactly what happened to them. And so, because their whole livelihoods, their whole life, they were dependent upon the buffalo for their survival. Right. Their food, their clothing, their shelter. It could take 10 to 20 bison to make just one teepee. So without that, they didn't have shelter, they didn't have food, and they didn't even have their tools. A lot of their tools came from the buffalo as well. Even some of the children's toys.
The bowls and stuff like that.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna pull over here and let some of these other folks go by us. This one we don't really need to get out at. Okay, I'm just gonna let them go by. All right. So yeah, we're getting farther and farther away.
Day, Karen?
I do, yes, almost. I get a few days off once in a while, but yeah, just depending on how much they need me. You know, it just depends on, you know, kind of where I'm at on the totem pole, so to speak. Yep, so...
there is a World War mountain carving in progress right now.
That's right. He's talking about Crazy Horse, the world's largest mountain carving or sculpture in progress. And we get to go there later on this afternoon. That is absolutely amazing. And just to give you an idea of how big it is, when they get it done, you'll be able to fit all of Mount Rushmore right behind Crazy Horse's head. Yeah, okay, so the faces at Mount Rushmore are 60 feet. Okay, remember that. That seems really big, doesn't it? The faces at Mount Rushmore are 60 feet. But when they get done with Crazy Horse, it's going to be over 600 feet long, almost 600 feet high, in the round. All the way around, three-dimensional. Yep, and Mount Rushmore blasted off approximately 450,000 tons of rock. That's a lot of rock, right? And most of it's right down below the faces. Did you guys see all the rock?
Yeah.
Down below the faces?
Yeah.
Well, 450,000 tons seems like a lot. Well, guess how much they blasted off a Crazy Horse already? 8 million tons of rock have been removed. Way more rock has been removed. And so anyway, it's like literally half a mountain is gone. So they work on it all the time, but they get absolutely no taxpayers, you know, money or funding. No federal funding, no state funding. Now, 1 cent comes from taxpayers because the sculptor, Korczak Julkowski, did not want it to be a taxpayer's project. He only wanted Crazy Horse to be supported only by people who wanted to go there. What a concept, huh?
Yes.
So, and to this day, that's what keeps Crazy Horse going. Admission fees and donations and contributions of the like. So, yeah, it's an amazing place. So many people think it's federally funded. People who live around here think it's federally funded. And to Korczak Julkowski, it was a lot more than just the carving. He wanted it to help Native Americans. And so they've got a university there for the Native Americans. They've got the Indian Museum of North America. They've got the Cultural and Educational Center where all the natives do their jewelry and their art and write their books, and it's one of the largest collections of Native American art and artifacts in like the 5-state region. It's pretty incredible. So, and guess what else? They have free coffee. Woohoo!
Oh,
Yeah.
I can go for that.
Yeah, they have free coffee, and that's kind of nice at the end of the day to get some free coffee. And they got free coffee in the snack shop, and then also free coffee in what's called the covered porch area. And I'm going to give you a brochure of Crazy Horse here pretty soon as well, so you can kind of pick and choose all the places you want to see there.
The horse has out here met boardroom.
Yep. Korczak Julkowski worked for Gutzen Borglum. He was one of his personal assistants, but he got fired from the project. Oh boy, is that ever a story. Let's just say there was a big fist fight up on top of Mount Rushmore. It was actually between Lincoln Borglum, Gutzen Borglum's son, of course named after Gutzen Borglum's favorite subject to carve, Abraham Lincoln. And he's done several carvings of him and sculpted many statues of Abraham Lincoln. They're across the United States. And so, yep, the fight was between Lincoln Borglum, the son of Gutzen, and Korczak Czulkowski. Thank goodness the boys broke up the fight, because that could have completely changed history if somebody would have went flying off the cliff at Mount Rushmore. Yep, big old fisticuffs on top of Mount Rushmore. There's I don't know if you noticed the little lake over there. That's called Dakota Lake, a nice place to have a picnic or go fishing. Most of our fish are trout. We've got rainbow trout, brook trout, brown trout, and some of the other lakes have different kinds of trout. But yeah, it's mostly trout here. You might catch the occasional perch or smallmouth bass. The lakes on the outskirts of the Black Hills even have walleye. There's one lake in the Black Hills that has northerns, if we got any fishermen on board. Yep. Yeah, northern pike, they're called. Yeah, and we're almost to Borglum Point. Yeah, Gutzen and Borglum used to come up here almost every day while they were sculpting Mount Rushmore, while they were carving Mount Rushmore, and he had a ranch not too far from here. So he'd come up to a place that's now called Borglum Point. He wanted to make sure Mount Rushmore looked good from all directions. So he'd go to this spot called Borglum Point, which we're about to see, and he'd examine the rock on Mount Rushmore, and supposedly he'd even charge people a nickel to look through the spotting scope. Yep. I think he only did it a few times, but yeah. All right, and then also you're going to be able to look back if it's not in the clouds anyway, or the fog, and you might be able to see Black Elk Peak. It was in the fog earlier today. I wonder if this person is heading out. Okay, I'm not sure what they're doing, but everybody look way over and you'll see Mount Rushmore. Everybody look way out there. You see it? There's Mount Rushmore way out there. Yep. And then, yeah, about 8-10 miles as the crow flies, and then Borglum. Yep, and there it is again, Mount Rushmore. I'm just so glad that's not in the fog, because usually it's the other way around. Usually Mount Rushmore is in the fog and you can see Black Elk Peak. And then again, sometimes they're both in the fog, so maybe later on it'll clear up a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen sage, but there's a whole bunch of it coming out right now. It's the light green plant that you see. Yep, it's real like a light green color, a sage color. Okay. So, yeah, we just left the Black Hills National Forest. Now we're surrounded by private land, and pretty soon we'll be in state land. Custer State Park, the second largest state park in America. Yep, not to be confused with the national park, completely different. Yep, state parks are managed by the state that it's in, South Dakota. So, South Dakota State Parks. And the largest state park in America is the Adirondacks up in New York. That one's huge. That's the largest state park in America, and but Custer State Park is the second largest state park in the United States. And yep, 71,000 acres. That's kind of small for a national park. Like Yellowstone is 2.2 million acres. Yellowstone is over 2 million acres. So if you go there, hopefully you've got at least a week, because it takes a long time just to drive from point A to point B and all around to see everything. Yep. And if you go to Yellowstone, you definitely want to go to the Old Faithful Inn and check that out. That's not too far away from Old Faithful. And the Old Faithful Inn is the world's largest log structure. When you walk in, your jaws will drop. It's got this beautiful two-sided fireplace. And somebody was talking about Yellowstone earlier. Did you guys go there? Didn't somebody mention Yellowstone earlier?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay. Did you see Old Faithful?
Well, it had snowed right before we got there, so it was just a poof of smoke.
Oh, shucks. Okay. So, but was it even, could you drive in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because sometimes they close stuff there when it snows, so depending on how much they got. So they must not have got too much. But yeah, it can snow quite a bit. And was there some flooding there? Somebody said they had some flooding recently, or?
We went years ago.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
American all thing.
Yep, and yeah, and if you ever go to Yellowstone, you know, stick to the months of like July, August. June can even be a little tough. There can be a lot of snow still up in the higher elevations in Yellowstone.
Beginning of June.
Oh, yep. So I always say to be safe, go the second half of June, and then July or August, and then September can be a little tough as well. So first part of September at the very latest, because it can snow. What's that? What did he say?
Kind of
Kinda
grass.
grass.
is-
Oh, the grass here growing? Let's see here. I'm a wannabe botanist. Just give me a second. I know we've got a lot of sweetgrass coming up, but the sweetgrass is normally in the in wetter areas. I just harvested some yesterday. But yeah, there's buffalo grass. There's switchgrass. There's different kinds of wheat. There's several different kinds of sedges. And then there's, let's see, sedges. Trying to think of some of the other ones too. Yeah, let me keep thinking on that, and I'll try to identify. Well, I used to know a lot more. My memory's not as good as it used to be. In fact, there's a plant called the cattail, which most people know about cattail plants, right?
Yes.
And the cattail plants, I'll be pointing some out today, but the root of the cattail plant is edible. It can save your life if you're lost in the forest. Yeah, it's very starchy, and it can save your life. And so it's edible, and it kind of tastes like a water chestnut. My friend Gloria, she pickles the cattail root. Okay, right now we are officially in Custer State Park.